The science behind positive self-talk. All the way back in 1937, Napoleon Hill was writing about the human mind. In his book, Think and Grow Rich, he set out the idea that success truly starts internally. According to this book, we can think ourselves rich by having the right mindset and following certain guidelines in regard to how we think about success, money, and our lives going forward. Over the years, this concept has been revisited dozens of times. For a long time, the idea that our thoughts could affect our physical lives seemed almost a joke or wishful thinking. In more recent years, studies have shown there's more to this line of thinking than was originally believed. Science has effectively proved positive self-talk, and in counterpart negative self-talk, affects both mental and physical health. Even more startling, our success, growth, and development can all be attributed to how we think and the things we tell ourselves. How does this work? In a research study done at the University of North Carolina, various participants were asked to react to a variety of stimuli. The results were intriguing. It was shown over and over again that those who had a positive experience were able to see possibilities in a way that those who reacted to negative or even neutral situations couldn't. Positive influence was seen to lead to problem solving and the ability to see choices in difficult situations. Now think what happens when you apply this thinking to positive self-talk. You quickly discover individuals with the most upbeat inner dialogue will not only see possibilities, but are more likely to engage in positive action. Here's where you see a long-lasting effect of building new skill sets and compiling resources for future activity. Even more important is how this impacts state of mind. Positive self-talk and the long-lasting impact of being able to see the big picture and then to develop the resources to make dreams a reality leads to even more important mental growth. The study further went on to show that the positive person is more likely to experience joy and contentment in their lives. In short, positive self-talk leads to happiness. These studies are just the tip of the iceberg, but they demonstrate how our self-talk impacts every aspect of our lives. Keep this in mind the next time you catch yourself thinking you're not going to be able to accomplish something, or you start berating yourself for some mistake or another. Here's where you need to stop and reword criticism into something constructive. Your future success depends on it. 8 ways to train your brain to switch to positive self-talk. Numerous scientific studies have proven a more optimistic attitude will benefit you in terms of mental health and well-being. Even more intriguing is the idea that positive self-talk can lead to better physical health, happiness, and success in every aspect of your life. With so much at stake, it's obvious that switching your brain over to a habit of positive self-talk is not only a good idea, but a necessary one if you truly wish to become all that you can possibly be. How can you train your brain to be positive in a world already skewed toward negativity? Be here now. We worry about the future. We carry regrets about the past. It's no wonder focusing on things outside of the present can lead to negative self-talk. Engage in the moment by acting mindfully. Find your calm. Every day you need to refresh and renew yourself mentally. You can't do this in a noisy environment where you're constantly being bombarded by stimuli. Seek quiet. Meditate. Even time spent in a quiet room will allow you space to disengage and let go of negative thoughts. Find your spiritual self. Whatever your belief system, connecting to something larger than yourself has a way of centering you. Engage in spiritual practice, be it prayer, worship, or even something that gives you feelings of hope or love will generate a positive response internally. Practice gratitude. Every day be thankful. Gratitude has been shown to improve mood and overall happiness, especially when expressing this gratitude to others. Perform random acts of kindness. Did you know that doing something for others stimulates dopamine production in your brain, leaving you long-lasting happy feelings? Find small ways to pay it forward. Every day, practice 1. Laugh. There's nothing more healing or positive than laughter. Studies have shown laughing even when you don't feel like it initially has a way of becoming real. Look for the humor in situations. Find reasons to laugh daily. Change the script. Still getting caught up in negative thoughts? Listen to what you're saying and try to rephrase the thought more positively. Challenge negative assumptions. Turn dire predictions into questions. Look for solutions instead of assuming defeat. Move around. Exercise has been shown to stimulate a positive chemical response in your brain with long-lasting effects. In short, it's much easier to think positive when you're feeling good. As with the formation of any habit, don't expect overnight success. Switching from a negative inner dialogue over to positive self-talk is going to take time and patience. If you slip up, don't get caught up in a cycle of blame or despair. Instead, grasp the next positive thought and simply keep going. Eventually, this optimistic outlook will become automatic. When you reach that point, rejoice. It's here where you'll find peace and contentment, and even joy in life. 6 practical steps to improving your life with positive self-talk. Negative self-talk impacts your life in more ways than you can ever imagine. Without realizing it, we become our own worst enemies, stripping ourselves of self-confidence and peace of mind. Left unchecked, this lack of positivity in our lives can start affecting our health, leaving us worried and stressed, unable to relax. Fixing it? This is actually easier than you think. It all starts with positive self-talk and following these 6 practical steps. You start by catching yourself in the act. These 3 steps will put the brakes on negative self-talk before it can gain a foothold. Write it down. Keeping a journal is a great way to keep a handle on what you're thinking. Try writing down your impressions of the day before bed. This allows you to let go of feelings that might fester if allowed to run unchecked when you're trying to sleep. Rereading those entries later will give you a picture of just where you are. It might be you've been more negative lately than you thought. Just say no. When you catch the negative statements in your head, your job is to stop them before they form. The moment you recognize your self-talk shifting to something less than uplifting, you need to say no to it immediately. Say the word stop out loud if you need to. Snap back. Psychologists have advised this therapy for years to stop negative thoughts. You simply place a rubber band around your wrist, one that doesn't fit too snug. Simply snap the rubber band whenever you have a negative thought. Eventually, you'll find yourself stopping those thoughts automatically just to avoid the punishment. Next, try following these 3 steps to put positive self-talk in action. Tone it down. What word can you change in the negative thought to take the sting out? Instead of stupid, perhaps you were mistaken. Instead of slow, maybe you're thoughtful. By paying attention to your words, you'll automatically start shifting your self-talk to the more positive. Switch sides. Make a game of it. Every time you hear yourself making a statement in your head, ask yourself if you somehow reword things to make your words neutral or even positive. See how many of these thoughts you can change. Question everything. Instead of listening to negative assumptions, turn them into questions. For example, "That's impossible" can become, "How can I make that possible?" Questions look for solutions while statements are already decisive. By tracking what you do and acting with intentionality to change the situation, you'll discover life looks different. You're feeling more relaxed and can even embrace optimism. You start liking yourself a little more. It's here where you start discovering the potential you've been holding all along. 5 types of negative self-talk and how to stop them. We'd like to think we're optimistic, positive people. After all, no one wants to be considered a grump. Besides, isn't that what we're taught from the time we're children, to smile and think the best of those around us? In truth, we don't always quite hit the mark. We might mean to be positive, but those negative thoughts have a way of creeping in, especially if we're tired or anxious. Strong emotion has a way of derailing us, as do the negative influences around us. In short, we're constantly being broadsided by negativity, and we can't help but respond in kind. How do we learn to recognize when our self-talk is turning negative, then stop it before it gains a foothold in our lives? We start by learning how to identify the most common culprits. Black and white thinking. The minute you start using all or nothing statements, you're already falling into a negativity mindset. When this comes up, the best thing to do is remind yourself the world doesn't really work that way. In fact, there are more shades of gray than you might think. Tunnel vision. When you can only see the bad in everything, it's no wonder you can feel lost in a sea of despair and negative self-talk. Here you see the world as only negative and seek out proof by pointing out every flaw or failure. This is defeated by rewording the statements as they come up. Look for the positive spin you can put on things. The disaster plan. When you can only see the negative outcome in everything, for this, accept that sometimes failure happens. You can even use dire predictions to work out a plan B in case you need one. But also remember to remind yourself there's also a chance of success in what you try. There's no reason to assume the worst. Anticipation. In this, you assume you know what someone else is thinking, and it's never good. To combat it, try having an honest conversation with the person instead. Let them speak for themselves. They might even surprise you. Again, quit assuming the worst. The guilty conscience. You messed up. Once. A long time ago. It's time to let it go. For some people, their brains are expert at bringing up the past, regardless of how much time has passed or what you've done to correct the mistake. Here you need to remind yourself of the lessons you've learned. Remember, the past is in the past. Look forward, seeing the possibilities. Let go of the rest. The world really is a more wonderful place than you might have realized. When you let go of negative self-talk, you're giving yourself the ability to try out a new frame of mind and see just how good things can be. Embrace positivity. Discover what the world has to offer. 5 tips for keeping your self-talk positive on a daily basis. There are certain things we do or should do every day without thinking. We need to be brushing our teeth and drinking enough water. We ought to be eating healthy and remembering to exercise. If we're really on task, we might also be doing something to expand our minds or work toward a specific goal. Now consider this. Of everything, what would you say the single most important thing you do is? Chances are you've answered something to do with sleeping properly or taking care of your physical health. Believe it or not, there's something even more critical, and it has to do with your self-talk. Maintaining a positive inner dialogue, also known as positive self-talk, is the one thing which is going to motivate everything else you do. It's when you're positive that you put in the effort to take care of yourself. When you encourage yourself, those tremendous big goals, not to mention all the small ones, become possible. Think of positive self-talk as the gas which makes the car move. With so much riding on what you're saying to yourself, how do you keep positive daily? Try following these 5 tips. Know your triggers. Certain people, places, and situations are going to raise up an instant series of negative self-talk messages. Knowing what those are in advance helps you to diffuse the situation before it gets out of hand. Ask yourself what you can do to avoid those triggers. What statements can you use to combat the messages which always come up when you're triggered? Do an inventory. Periodically check your inner dialogue. Is it getting negative? Pay attention to the signs telling you things are going downhill. Being mindful helps you to insert positive dialogue cues as needed to keep things on an even keel. Laugh. It's impossible to stay negative when laughing. Looking for the humor in situations helps you to stay positive. Hang with the right crowd. It's easy to have your mood affected by those around you. By sticking around positive people, you'll find upbeat energy tends to rub off. Find inspiration. Creating positive affirmations and daily repeating them starts the process of integrating specific thoughts into your dialogue. Keep these affirmations where you can see them. Leave notes to yourself inviting you to read those words again and again until they become part of who you are. Engaging in daily positive self-talk is the one habit you want to spend time creating. There is no substitute for this kind of dialogue, which means you're going to need to put in the effort until these actions become automatic. When you reach that point, you're going to see some real positive change. 4 ways to include positive self-talk into your life. Has it ever felt like some people have all the luck? You know who I'm talking about. In every group, there's someone who seems to have it all. They succeed in seemingly everything they attempt. They enjoy good health. The relationships are more intimate and longer lasting. It's no wonder these folks seem so positive all the time. Have you considered you're looking at them the wrong way around? Oddly enough, people don't tend to be optimists naturally. In fact, what you find out is when you get to know one of these stellar successes better, is that they succeed because they have a positive outlook, which stems from one simple facet of their personality. They all indulge in positive self-talk. Positive self-talk is the impetus of optimism. Thankfully, it can be learned. You start by following these 4 simple steps. Check your dialogue. What are you saying? Everyone keeps up a fairly constant stream of self-talk. Start paying attention to the words you use. It might seem obvious, but if you want to induce positive self-talk, you need to drop the negative. Start by identifying the triggers. What negative words and phrases do you use most often? What positive words can you substitute? It might be you need to do some work to root out the more common culprits as frequently as the most negative statements have roots outside yourself. When this happens, remind yourself the only opinion that truly counts is your own. What would you rather tell yourself instead? Add some fun. It's almost impossible to stay negative when you're laughing. By looking for the humor in the situation, you change your entire attitude. Your outlook shifts, and you find yourself feeling more positive. Your self-talk shifts right along with it. You'll find yourself laughing internally and feeling better about yourself. Explore optimism. Positive self-talk stems from an optimistic viewpoint. When you confront a new situation, look at how you react. Make a conscious effort to see the bright side of the situation. Assume the best-case scenario. This optimism carries into your self-talk. Start assuming the best about yourself as well. Persist. Remember, practice makes perfect. You're not going to succeed overnight. If you catch yourself thinking something rather negative, don't fall into a blame spiral thinking you failed. Be easy on yourself and simply remind yourself of something positive. If you need help remembering these steps, try posting affirmations where you see them frequently. Positive self-talk becomes a habit when you practice it daily. The more you hang in there and try, the more optimistic you'll feel. Before you know it, you're going to be one of those people you used to admire, and people will be looking up to you. 4 unique techniques for changing your self-talk. Feeling kind of negative and down lately? Do you find your footsteps lagging with nothing seeming overly interesting? Are you lost in a bad case of the blahs? It might be you've gotten yourself lost in the world of negative self-talk. When you start paying attention to what you're saying to yourself in your thoughts, you might wind up being surprised. When tired and burned out, it's not uncommon to fall into a dialogue that slowly grows more and more negative. When this happens, it's time to break out of this spiral of depression and angst. In short, it's time to change your self-talk for the better. For a quick pick-me-up, try some of these unique techniques for changing self-talk back over to a more positive tone. Create an anchor. When things go bad, it's good to have someplace you can go to rest, to recharge, to regain a sense of who you are. By creating a happy place in your mind that is soothing and restful, you can block out negativity and get yourself recentered again. The key? It has to be someplace comforting, where you feel secure and loved. Create this hideaway in as much detail as possible, laying in not just sights, but sounds, smells, even the feel of the textures around you. This will become your safe hideaway when you need it. List possibilities. What are the things you love most? Make a list of things to do, places to go, books you love, anything inspiring happiness. Keep this list handy and try to indulge in one happiness booster every single day. By giving yourself something which feels like a treat, you'll find your mood and self-talk both shift to a more positive note. Celebrate accomplishment. Whenever you do something you're proud of, write the accomplishment on a slip of paper and add it to a jar or box designated as your treasure chest. Whenever you start feeling negative, grab out a handful to reread to remind you of just how many things you've accomplished and all the things you have to be proud of. Negativity can't stand up to that kind of hard evidence. Treat yourself like a friend. Caught in a negative thought? Take this statement and pretend someone just said the very same thing to a child or your best friend. What would you tell them about this thought? How would you comfort them? How would you treat someone who said such a thing to someone you love? Now ask yourself why you're allowing someone, you, to say that to you. With minimal effort, it's easy to shift your thinking. Change is simply a matter of being intentional in your thoughts. In other words, pay attention to what you're saying, practice the techniques, and you'll be surprised at how quickly your attitude shifts and life changes for the better. 4 steps to change your self-talk to be your ally. What if you were offered a coach who could see you through every tough challenge you faced? What if someone was always there with an encouraging word to bolster your courage and build you up? Someone who knows you better than any other person in the world and still thinks you're terrific. Someone who only sees the success you can be and never brings up the past or criticizes unfairly. Now what if I told you this someone is already there in your life waiting to be heard? Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? There's only one catch. You have to drop the negativity and make your self-talk your ally, not your enemy. Read on to discover 4 steps to do just that. Pay attention to the dialogue. You can't change what you don't understand. The first step is to start paying attention to the things you tell yourself. What kinds of things are you saying? Are there pet phrases? Do you seem more negative after certain triggers? What are the sticking points you come back to again and again? Learn to tune things out. By listening, we allow negativity free rent space in our heads. It's better to just acknowledge what's being said and ignore it. The more you make a big deal out of it, the more you're giving it room to grow. Instead, tell yourself, okay, this is there, who cares? Find your phrase. Here's where you get to create your go-to phrase. Make it a good one, as you're going to get a lot of mileage out of it. Even something simple like, "You've got this," can pack a positive punch. Pick something that makes you feel good when you hear it. Insert this into your dialogue as needed. Remind yourself to focus. The problem with negative self-talk is, it's so distracting. When you catch it happening, call yourself back to what you're doing. If it helps, even say the word focus out loud. It can be helpful to get your attention back to where it needs to be. There's no room for negativity in that kind of concentration. When we engage in positive self-talk, this inner dialogue becomes an ally like no other. You open yourself up to growth and change. You discover a whole world of possibilities, and as a result, accomplish more than you ever thought possible. 3 ways mindfulness tames negative self-talk. How much are you focusing on today? When we're feeling negative, frequently it's because we're looking anywhere but where we are. Either our eyes are on the past and the mistakes we've made and the opportunities we've missed, or we're off worrying about the future and what may or may not happen. We forget to live in the moment and embrace the space where we are right now. We're not acting with mindfulness, and as a result, we're missing out on a world of possibility. Self-talk, likewise, can become sidetracked in the same way. The statements we tell ourselves typically focus on the things we've done wrong, or what we're likely to screw up tomorrow. Our entire inner dialogue takes us down this road, away from the current moment, and off into the time machine of our mind where every time is on an equal level with right now. This is where mindfulness becomes a powerful tool to tame negative self-talk. How? Begin with acceptance. You are where you are. End of story. Every person is a compilation of everything that's come before and every hope and dream for the future. They're messy and complicated. Sometimes they do things they aren't proud of. Sometimes they do. Whatever the case, wherever you are right now is you. Embrace the person you are in this moment. There's no need to dredge up the past nor fret about the future when you're focused on the you in this moment. There's only acceptance in the here and now. Be open to learning. Whatever happened before becomes a lesson to you. What did you discover about yourself? Start seeing every mistake as an opportunity to learn. Nothing more. There's no judgment, only the calm acceptance that this too was a building block for the you of today. Remind yourself of these lessons, but allow no other thoughts to intrude. Discover flow. Embrace positive activities. Find the things you can get lost in, where everything seems to flow without awareness of the passage of time. These are the things you're meant to do. Track the emotions as you engage in flow. What are the thoughts springing from these moments? Feel your confidence build. Embrace the positivity of your inner dialogue. This is you at your finest. Mindfulness is not hard to learn. It's about awareness of being conscious of what's here in front of you in this moment. It's about being aware of the you in the moment and the things you're discovering in this awareness. When you genuinely reach this state, you'll find there's no room for negativity at all. Just a more positive version of yourself, reflected in your contentment and the dialogue within yourself. 3 steps to boosting your confidence by changing your self-talk. Imagine this scenario. Work doesn't feel satisfying. You don't feel like you've been getting enough responsibility at work. You'd like to prove you're capable of more, perhaps get a promotion, but you don't say anything. You hope your boss will somehow magically understand and be the first to bring it up. Or try this. You've been interested in a certain someone for a long time. So far, you've been content to watch from afar. You find yourself wistfully thinking about how nice it would be if they noticed you, if they said hello. You wait silently, not far away, and wonder if you'll ever catch their eye. If either of these scenarios sounds familiar, it might be you're needing a substantial boost in your self-confidence. Confidence is what takes us from the world of wishful thinking over into action. Confidence starts a conversation. Confidence gives you the impetus to stand up and say what's on your mind. The problem with self-confidence is it tends to stem from your self-talk. What you tell yourself dictates how you're feeling about yourself. If you're constantly putting yourself down, you're going to struggle with feeling confident enough to approach a difficult situation. After all, if you don't like yourself, how can you expect the world to? You can change these scenarios. You start with changing your self-talk in 3 easy steps. Start listening. When you really pay attention to what you're saying, you might be surprised. Most of us tune out the words we say most often because we've heard them so many times before. You might be amazed at just how negative some of those thoughts are. Verify what's true and what isn't. The question then becomes just which of these statements are true and which ones aren't. What evidence do you have of this? Don't be afraid to become an investigator. For example, are you always late? Check and find out. Our minds are very good at blowing things out of proportion. Rephrase what's being said. If you don't like the answers you're getting in the previous step, it's time to rephrase what you're saying. Replace outright lies with positive truths. Turn statements around into questions that seek out solutions. By being mindful of your self-talk, you'll find your confidence growing exponentially. You'll feel better about yourself and more courageous in being able to express your feelings, with the expectation that someone else will want to listen to what you're saying. After all, when you like you, how can anyone else resist?